Week 9 of the Ohio high school football season is upon us, and we are talking high school football and playoff projections in this week's edition of your WCPO High School Insider Podcast. Join you a day early today, but this week, that is Tuesday afternoon, but pleased to be joined by Princeton head football coach Mike Daniels and Indian Hill coach Tony Arcuri, and we're going to get to those guys here in a little bit. As always, this High School Insider Podcast is presented by our local Chick-fil-A restaurants. Catering is Chick-fil-A's winning play of the game, perfect for your holiday parties. Order today in their app, and as always, you can get this WCPO High School Insider on Google Play, Stitcher, and Apple Podcasts. And I want to bring in Princeton head football coach Mike Daniels, and he brought along a lot of his players today. And Coach, thanks for joining us, and thanks for bringing in your players here for this episode.
My starting offensive line. So they did a phenomenal job last week, and so this was a nice little reward to be able to get them some attention, but also let them or allow them to talk about the program and get talking about what we have going on.
Great. Well, I want to have you introduce each and every one of them here in a quick second here. But obviously, Princeton 5-3 plays host to Lakota West. The Firebirds are 6-2 in a key Greater Miami Conference game Friday night. Princeton right now is number 6 in the Division I Region 4 computer point standings, and Lakota West is number 5. So obviously, a lot at stake Friday night at Princeton for this game. And Princeton had 551 yards of total offense in that 40-7 win at Oak Hills last week. And Coach, before we get started, I'll just have you introduce your offensive line and talk about their big-time performance last week.
We have center, Javon Neal. We have left guard, Brandon Williams. We have right guard, Quincy Hughes. In back of me, we have our right guard, Vincent Mullen Jr. I'm sorry, right tackle, and then left tackle, Paris Johnson Jr. So we have the junior boys in back of me anchoring the offensive line. Great performance. They did a phenomenal job of executing the game plan and finishing. I thought it was their best performance this year, so very proud of them. It's something to be able to add to. We're excited about this week. You alluded to this matchup. It's GMCs at its finest, and boy, are we excited about the opportunity to be in the hunt. This is probably the most important football game in the last 12 years here at Princeton High School. And so we know it. The kids know it. I'm sure Lakota West understands that. And we're excited about the opportunity.
Great. I want to bring in a couple of these guys talking about that opportunity. Quincy, maybe we'll start with you here first. First of all, go back to last week, and Coach just kind of alluded to it, the fact that it was a dominant performance by the offensive line. What were you most pleased with the way you guys played offensively?
Probably our execution, really. We moved unlike we really ever have, got to our spots, freed up the running game, pass pro, got to the pass. We just did what we do, and we keep that going. I think we're on a good track.
Javon, what did you like most about the way you guys played? Obviously, Dorian Durham, 5 of 7 passing, 193 yards, 2 touchdowns. What was the connection like going well for him and your offensive line?
After MJ getting hurt and Dorian had to hop in, this is a big deal. And he stepped in and he did his job, and we helped him, and by just protecting them, and that's what we always got to do, build a wall. And that's why I love these guys. They're great.
Brandon, what's been the focus like this week as you guys prepare for another big-time matchup, as Coach alluded to?
This week we've been really, really focused. We not as much goofiness. We taking this week serious, like it is a playoff week. Because if you think about it kind of really is for us. So this week we're going hard.
Vincent, I know obviously a lot of points at stake here. Obviously, a lot of at stake within the GMC standings as well. How much are you looking forward to this opportunity?
For this opportunity, we got to go against Lakota West, real good team. And me and my boys, we're going to go out there and do our thing. We're going to hit like we never hit before. Like B. Will just said, this is a playoff game. Playoff starts right now, so we just going to go in there, have it like playoffs in our head right now, and we just go out there and hit.
In Paris, I mean, obviously this is week 9. It's a grind this time of season. Everybody doesn't matter whether you're healthy or not. I mean, you need to stay fresh to get ready for that playoff push. What have the coaches been emphasizing to you guys as you prepare for these final 2 weeks of the regular season?
I would definitely say focus and execution and never taking one rep or series off. I feel like that's been the biggest thing that's been repeated to us. And, for me, this being my last year and going to try to make it into the playoffs for my third year in a row with varsity, I think right now just trying to step up and be a leader and then try to echo what the coaches are saying about what's important, because this week will set everything up to give Princeton something they haven't had since 2007.
Coach, you mentioned in the beginning of the season, one of your goals, obviously, to make it back to the playoffs for the first time since 2007. What's been kind of the vibe around the school community this week as you know that, you take nothing for granted, especially in the log jam that's really in those final spots there in the playoff positioning. What's been the mentality? What are you hearing from people around the school about this opportunity?
I think everybody knows what's at stake. I think everybody knows the history. This is a place that prides itself on its tradition and history. And so everyone's aware of what's going on, and everybody understands the magnitude of this week, understands the magnitude of the distance between Lakota West and Princeton is short. And so a lot of our kids know their kids. A lot of our administration knows their administration. And so huge game. It's week 9. I mean, when you're talking about a season that's flown by. And so, again, I think everybody's under the same understanding that this is a huge week. It's a lot at stake, whether it's from playoffs or GMC, bragging rights, but just daggone just playing ball and being able to finish strong. And so, again, it's my job to set the tone, and it's these guys' job to follow suit. And again, we're extremely excited about the opportunity. It'll be a great battle, and we look forward to it. We really do.
How pleased were you with some of your younger players last week, Coach? Because, I mean, you saw, Thomas Boyd, obviously you know what you're going to get with him, the production, 162 yards, 3 touchdowns. You had Ari Turner, 153 yards and a touchdown. Rodney Harris, just a sophomore, stepped up for you big time, 150 yards receiving and 2 touchdowns. I mean, what's that say about some of the younger guys on this team?
Well, the beauty of this group being here is it allows for guys to be able to step up and just fill in. We got a motto around here: is the next man in. And Ari Turner played JV last week, and this week he stepped up and was called to action, and he performed well, obviously with the help of this group here. But Rodney Harris also, he's been having a great season. Young kid, but big and physical in terms of a receiver. I'm really excited about his future. He does a phenomenal job. He's another junior on our team, Rodney Harris Jr., and he does a phenomenal job. His future's bright, and we're excited about him. He keeps getting better each week. So he performed well, and again, he's just stepping up, getting better. And the same with Ari. Ari was called to action. He was, like I said, he was on JV last week, and here he is, 100 and whatever yards rushing with a couple of TDs, I believe. And so, again, excited for him, excited about the opportunity. And it's a great lesson for our team to, always be ready to go, because you never know when your number's called. And so believe in the system, believe in our process. And if you're worthy, your time will come.
Before I let you guys go, just talk about, anybody can jump in here, just the offensive line, you guys' camaraderie here. I was out there, obviously, in the preseason talking to a couple of you guys and had great conversations, just about this team. And but there's a unique camaraderie, obviously, within any offensive line. Can you tell me a little bit about how close you guys are and what's it been like to play with each other this season?
I feel like on our offensive line, we have a different way of talking to each other. Not disrespectful or anything, but we just bond with each other in a different way. Like, we could look at each other and know something off the bat, and we really don't have to speak much words to, get what we're trying to get out. But when it comes time to be serious, like, we turn into a different type of, unit. We just go out there and dog, and that's really what we do.
Kind of leads me to mind. Go ahead.
Oh, so what I would say, I think our offensive line, we're a great unit. I've been playing on Princeton varsity team for 3 years now. And so you see a lot of offensive line, you see the people that come and go. But this team right here, this year with my offensive line, you got 3 seniors on it, you got 2 juniors. And I've been knowing all them just for a long time. So we all have that one type bond. It's just like, man, you can't break this bond. If you try to break it, you can't break it. We all joke, we all laugh and all that, and that just brings us together as a unit. So
I want to pick up on Quincy's point here, just the aggressiveness. You mentioned being on the field. And Paris, I just got to ask you about that viral video there of you blocking without your helmet there against Fairfield. Obviously, I mean, you just showed a relentless pursuit of doing anything for your offensive linemen there. Tell me about the reaction you got, maybe just about that, and just your mentality out on the field. It just seems like you're always 1,000% every play.
Right. That's the mentality that I got, and I give that credit to the mentality that I got that from Coach T, from St. X, and it's been amplified at this program here, thanks to Coach Daniels just allowing me just to truly be able to continue to have that mindset on the field instead of trying to calm it down. So I can thank them both for that. And my thing is I like to play 1,000% until the whistle's blown. No whistle was blown, so I continue. Multiple people have hit me up about it. I know Nate Robinson said that he liked it on Instagram. Andrew Whitworth, he told me he loved it. He continued to watch and see how I play the rest of the season. A lot of kids and stuff have reached out to me and said that they liked that and they saw that, for their motivation, inspiration, stuff like that, to have that type of mindset. So, I guess the reaction to it wasn't what I expected. That's just something I normally do. I wasn't trying to do that for attention.
Sure, of course.
I wasn't trying to finish the block because, the ball is still in the quarterback's hand. I'm not just going to let him hit the quarterback. I'm going to keep doing my job. I didn't really need a helmet to block him anyway.
Coach, before I let you go, I want to mention, so much we talk about, football and stats, importance of wins and losses, and obviously that's all great stuff. But, being student athletes, like each one of those guys in the room are with you, we always talk about the success of academics. We don't talk about it enough. And it just seems like you've had 25 to 30 players on your team with some very high grades and high marks this year so far. Can you talk a little bit about that and the success in the classroom?
Yeah. Absolutely, and you're right, Mike. We don't talk about the success of the academics. Everybody competitive, but that's part of the deal, and that's something that we value because as we move forward with what we're truly trying to do with these young men is move them on to the next level. That's the most important deal above the other things, and so. We will celebrate the academics here at Princeton, and I'm proud of the young men for putting the effort in. We ask a lot of them from a football standpoint, from a physical standpoint, but we also expect them to do well in the classroom. And so when they do what's expected of them, we'll make sure we recognize them just as if we're recognizing them for doing well on the football field.
Great. Very well said. Princeton head football coach Mike Daniels joined alongside Quincy Hughes, Javon Neal, Brandon Williams, Vincent Munlin, and Paris Johnson. We really appreciate your time and perspective, and best of luck to the Vikings Friday night.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mike.
Thanks, guys. Good luck to you.
Take care.
Great to talk to Princeton head football coach Mike Daniels there. As we want to remind you, this High School Insider podcast is presented by our local Chick-fil-A restaurants where the winning play is always chicken. Go for the extra point today with a side of their new macaroni and cheese. And want to bring in Indian Hill head coach Tony Arcuri. Tony, thanks for your patience and appreciate the perspective on the Braves program. First of all, how's your week going?
Oh, geez, great. I enjoyed listening to Coach Daniels and Princeton young men speak right there. And as you can see behind me, I'm just enjoying a lovely fall day here in Indian Hill.
Awesome. I wish I could be out there with you, obviously. Seems like a great day. Obviously, the Braves 7-1, number 2 in the Division 4, Region 16 computer points standings, according to Joe Idle. Those new ratings will be out, obviously, later today from the OHSA. And the Indian Hill host Finneytown on Friday night in a CHL matchup. But a lot of standout players for you, Coach, obviously, this year. But what are you most pleased with here as we enter Week 9 as we kind of head down the home stretch?
I think for really the first time this year, and maybe some people wouldn't believe this, but I'm most pleased with the gelling of our offense overall. I think over the past 2 to 3 weeks, particularly the past 2, we have turned a corner and have really begun to execute our game plan and to make fewer mistakes. And so, those are the things that are going to matter in the upcoming 2 to 3 weeks. Teams that make less mistakes and teams that execute better are going to be the ones that are successful. And right now, I think we're on a pretty good path with that, particularly with our offense.
I want to harken back to the preseason. I mean, you told me that you really, up until the point where we talked at Kenwood Town Center there in our preseason episode, you just love the way you guys were practicing. You said consistency was kind of the word that you kept emphasizing to your guys, and just seems like this group has something special about it. Is there something, maybe a leadership aspect, or is it just simply talent? I mean, what's been the buy-in from you guys?
Yeah, well, I've thought about that actually all year. What I think it probably has a lot to do with the fact that they've been here before. This is actually the first team in Indian Hill history that has an opportunity to qualify for the playoffs 5 consecutive seasons. And so I think that business-like approach that I have seen, that business-like way of understanding the importance of execution and being consistent is probably just something that, when you do it 5 times in a row, and I know they were 8th graders 5 years ago, but when that's all you have seen, you kind of, that's ingrained in you a lot.
Your senior quarterback, Trey Lopez, 950 yards passing, 10 touchdowns, and he's rushed for 741 yards and 12 touchdowns. How important has he been to your offense?
Well, he makes it click. Obviously people see they see the rushing yards that he has. They see the rushing touchdowns that he has. They see the passing. What is not, apparent to the general eye is what that does for the people around him. This is why Duke Weiler has 12 touchdowns. This is why, he is, around the 600-yard mark for rushing. So, Trey does his thing, but his thing enables the players around him to also do theirs.
You talk about your senior Amari Whitehead. I mean, he's got 20 receptions, 470 yards, and then on defense, 3 interceptions. I mean, what's been the key to his success and especially his versatility?
I think, he's a kid that I've been so happy with his maturity over the course of the season. Last year he wasn't able to play a lot of the season. And so he didn't really get, what you would consider a solid junior year. But he's really turned into a very solid leader for us. Just the way he performs. Again, he really, when it comes game time, has this business-like attitude. And I think, that's the thing I'm most proud of him. He's going to make plays because he's blessed with ability, particularly speed. And, his vertical jump is, off the charts. But that stuff doesn't mean a whole lot if you're not focused. And I've really been happy with his focus and as you said earlier, his consistency.
Defensively, your senior nose guard, David Ryu, 6.5 sacks, 29 tackles. What do you like the most about the way he's been playing and really your entire defensive unit? David he's got such a fast first step. That seems like a simple thing. I think we hear that a lot, particularly on Sundays. But, when you're playing on the defensive line, you can get off the football quicker than the person in front of you. You're typically going to have a lot of success. So, that's the thing I think that's kind of made him understanding that, how you're being coached and the technique that you need to execute is very important. We brought on a new defensive coordinator this year in Antoine Peak of UC fame. Sure.
He's made some changes there. As far as, it's just his energy. I think his energy has fed into, how our defensive players react, how they play. We got another young coach, Jeff Ball. Those two guys together really work closely. They've got energy to burn. I think at times they have more than the kids. That becomes contagious. And that's obviously very important to play with emotion, to play with relentlessness on defense.
I know it's 1 week at a time, so I'm not going to ask you about Wyoming in week 10, but how would you assess this region? I mean, Region 16, I mean, Wyoming, Clinton, Massey, you guys are right there at number 3. Waynesville, those are the projections from Steve Shuck to host first-round games. And Roger Bacon and Bethel Tate, what's been the identity of this region? Everybody knows, obviously, Wyoming is a defending state champion, but how strong is this core group of teams this year?
Well, if you look at those two teams in Clinton, Massey, and Wyoming, obviously they've accounted for quite a few Division IV state championships over the course of the past 5 to 6 years. So I don't think it's a stretch to say that, Region 16 it has been one recently where a state championship runs through that region. I think it's very tough. At times as a coach, it can get frustrating because that maybe you have a Final Four team in some other regions, but this one is going to test you. And so, if you look at just us, Massey, and Wyoming, the last, all of us have been there the last 5 years from on a consistent basis. So it's just a matter of, like I said earlier, how do you get out of the region? You execute and you don't make mistakes, because when you're playing Clinton Massey's, when you're playing Wyoming's, one little thing will do you in. And certainly our kids know that. If they haven't learned that by now, they never will. And I think they have.
Before I let you go, I know your players are in class, but I really appreciate your time. And just talk about maybe something that the Indian Hill football program is also known for. I mean, people see the wins and the playoff appearances consecutively, but maybe something in the classroom, in the community that you're really proud of this season from your squad.
Well, we try and preach a balanced approach. The athletics is one thing. Obviously, this is a great place to be academically overall, not just within our football team. Indian Hill School District is top of the line when it comes to educational experience for our students, and we're very proud of that. And we make sure that our players know they're blessed to be in that environment. We also want them to be active. With community service. Some folks here, I did a piece last year about our involvement with an organization called Kids Fed, which is actually run by one of our players here, Duke Weiler, last year by his brother Graham Weiler. We continue to be very active in that. And I think when you put together the athletics, you put together the academic piece of it, and then the service aspect of it, our football players get a pretty good experience.
Great. Indian Hill head football coach Tony Arcuri. Tony, I really appreciate your time and perspective as always. And again, thanks for making time for the WCPO High School Insider.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Tony. Best of luck to the Braves. You too. Thank you. Yep. That was Indian Hill head coach Tony Arcuri joining us, talking about the 7-1 Braves. Obviously a very special season for them. And we were going to talk to New Miami head football coach Jesse Hubbard, but wanted to give a shout out to the Vikings. 8-0 for the first time in program history. They defeated North College Hill last week, 48-26. First win over the Trojans since 2002. And obviously New Miami 7-0 per the OHSA computer point standings, 8-0 overall. But senior Danny Spivey and junior Dylan Spivey went over 100 yards in that game against North College Hill. Their junior Trey Robinette over 1,100 yards passing and 14 touchdowns, got 191 yards rushing and 10 touchdowns. They quite captured the community's attention over there in the village of New Miami in Division 7, Region 28. And just a fantastic story. Wrote about them on WCPO.com earlier this season. The Vikings were 4-16 overall before Coach Hubbard took over in May of 2018. So definitely a shout out to them. Steve Shuck has them projected number 1 in that Region 28 standings right now. So we're going to have all the Steve Shuck projections for you on WCPO.com Wednesday morning, scheduled to be published at 7 a.m. And we'll definitely have all the matchups, all the scenarios. I mean, there's a lot to talk about this week, especially when you start to discuss Region 4 and Region 8. There's a lot of teams on the bubble and no guarantees whatsoever. I'm going to be out at Lancer Stadium on Friday night covering the big Winton Woods at LaSalle matchup. Pretty much for all intents and purposes, a must-win situation for Winton Woods, according to our Steve Shuck. And even with a win, you just don't know if they can get in, just the way the computer points are are kind of shaping up to be right now. So a lot at stake for that game. Plenty of other games that we're going to have for you covered on the Friday Night Frenzy on WCPO.com as well. And I'll, as usual, keep tabs for you late Friday night into early Saturday morning about all the standout performers from Week 9, as well as all the teams to watch and the latest projections from Steve Shuck as we head into the home stretch. Week 10, November 1st and 2nd, should be a memorable finish to, once again, another exciting Ohio high school football season. That's all we have for you this week. Be sure to follow me on Twitter at Mike Dyer. And if you haven't joined the Cincinnati Area High School Sports Facebook group, please give us a follow for that, for all the latest news, notes, and feature stories from across the city. And we have you full bases covered as always. That's all we have for you today. I'm your host, Mike Dyer. We'll talk to you next week.